We like to start talking. I say we, Mike. We like to start talking about any rituals that you have. You were an actor, and you still are. Do you still consider yourself to be an actor?
Yeah, I think once you're an actor, you're always an actor.
Yeah. So much like once you're an alcoholic, there's no giving up.
There's no giving. There's no giving up.
You can do whatever you want. You can go to the meetings, but you're still,
Yeah, hey, I might. One day I'm gonna put my cleats back on.
When you were auditioning, did you have any rituals before, like when you would get a script? And I know you've had you've had an extensive career, I will say. So it could have changed over time, but was there any ritual that you would have when you would get a script and you realize you had an audition?
Oh God, it changed so much over the years. When I was younger, I just think panic would, hit me right away, and I would just I tried to read the script as quickly as possible, not necessarily tap into my imagination as much as just try to know the story really quickly, and I try to learn the lines, and that certainly wasn't helpful. But over time, you just realize, at least for me, I need to slow down the process, which actually just sped it up. But I think that's one of the first things is learning to, when you get an audition, don't freak out.
Yeah.
So, I remember before when when I was coming up, you'd get I didn't have a cell phone, you'd get a page, and then you'd have to it was initially very panicking because you first had to find a way to get your script.
How did you get your script at that time?
Oh God, when I was in New York, you'd have to wherever you were, you'd have to find a fax machine.
Okay.
Or you'd have to somehow get to your agent's office. It was really stressful. So you're already starting with stress, and then you're supposed to calm it down.
Did you have a trick for doing that? Because did you allow yourself that moment of, I know when I get an audition, there will be this moment of panic? Do you allow that, and then were you able to find a way to bring yourself back down?
I think you really just start to recognize after a while that this is not working for me. So you just experience it. You think this is the norm. And then eventually you're like, this is not allowing me to, this is somehow an obstacle to me performing well. So then eventually you just learn to chill out. And sometimes what I would do is I would get my sides. Instead of looking at them right away, I would take a shower. I would drink a cup of tea. I would actually try to get into a state where I could actually really receive the story when I read it for the first time. So I wasn't worried about the audition. At the first time, I was just worried about absorbing the story.
I love you saying story. I love, and I don't think they hear about it much on this podcast. Can you go into a little detail about what you mean by that? Because I feel personally, as someone who full disclosure, is a student of yours, it's been one of the most illuminating things for me as an actor. So can you discuss a little bit what you mean by the story?
Yeah, I think that you start to recognize that when I was starting out, the reason I'd get so nervous, I was like, it's all up to me. I got to learn the lines. How am I going to be interesting? And that's just all about ego and bullshit. But then you just realize, no, I need to actually, and we all work differently. We either hear it or we see it. I'm a very visual person, definitely very kinesthetic. So I like to read it, and I really want to understand what everyone's experience is during the scene, all the characters. So you're really understanding it from in a more sophisticated or comprehensive way. Is you're understanding why did the writer even write this?
What's the point of the scene you're saying?
What's the point of the scene? What's the point of the story?
Okay. Yeah.
What makes these characters worth exploring? And then eventually, for example, when someone, when I coach every day, and I can't have someone read me a breakdown. I have to read it. So as a very visual person, I like to read the words and then start to create the world in my head. So, if you're saying it's snowing, I want to imagine that it's snowing, that a car is driving up. And then you start to, and hopefully you can read this whole script. So you're really understanding why it exists and where it is, what issues we're exploring. So I am visualizing everybody's points of view within the scene.